What's up, my homies? It's Devin coming at you from the Mile High Break Room. You know, we really try to be a one-stop shop here for everything brewing, everything distilling, and that includes books, which is what we're going to go over today. You know, fairly often I get people who ask me, I'm just getting started in distilling, I want to know more. What are some good resources for me? And, obviously there's things like YouTube channels and online communities, but let's not forget one of the more important ones, which is books. And as you can see, we carry quite a few. Now I have these separated into little sections just to make this a little easier. I'm going to go over pretty much every book that we sell, just to give you guys an idea which ones might be good for you, which ones you might want to have to learn more, which ones you might want to have just for fun, So let's get into it. All right. So starting over here to my right, we have operations books. Now these are books that are going to basically tell you how to do things, explain to you how to operate a distillery and how to operate a bar, namely. So let's jump right into it. So this book is called The Cocktail Bar. This book will tell you pretty much everything you need to know about how to run a bar successfully. Goes into a little bit of bartending too, how to be a good bar back, welcoming greetings, what you can do to be a better bartender, as well as a bar owner. So if that's what you're looking to do, or maybe you've always thought about it, this would be a good book to have, a really good one, in fact. Under that, we now have the Nano Distillery. Now, where the Cocktail Bar is all about how to run a bar, as you can see, this one is all about how to run a micro distillery, pretty much. Goes over everything, picking out a location, permits and everything like that. A lot of knowledge in here, just like this one. Both very good. So those are our two operations books that we have. So if you are someone who's thinking about opening a distillery or a bar, something like that, pick up one of these for sure. Next, we have probably our biggest selection of books, which is sort of like how-tos, how to distill and stuff like that. So let's get started. First, we have The Craft and Culture of Artisan Schnapps. Now, as you've guessed, this book is all about schnapps. I put it in here, though, because it does go over the science behind distilling, fermentation, different still parts and stuff like that. But as the title suggests, it's all schnapps. If schnapps isn't your thing, you probably don't want this book, but it does give pretty good general knowledge on distillation. It also includes some schnapps recipes and stuff like that as well towards the end. Next, we have Traditional Distillation, Art and Passion. This is another book that's sort of general distillation knowledge, but it's centered around grapes. The author of this book was a distiller in California for like 30 or 40 years, and he only really worked with grapes, so that's pretty much all this book talks about. It does go over distillation, it does go over cuts, it does go over still parts and things like that, science and all that good jazz, but grapes. So if you're not distilling or fermenting with grapes, making wine, making brandy, probably not the book for you. Next up, we have The Distiller. This book is just a great all-around book about distillation. If you don't know anything about distillation, this is one of the books you want to have if you're really wanting to learn more. The first edition of this book was written and published in 1818, which is fucking crazy. This is the second edition, which is, you'd think there'd be like 20 editions of this book by now, but nope, only 2. So it's really cool, just so much knowledge in this book. Really, really great. I highly recommend this one if you're just getting into distilling. All right, last but not least, we have a book that probably a few of you have probably heard of before, which is Making Pure Corn Whiskey. Now, just like The Distiller, this is a very good book of sort of just all-around distillation knowledge, but as the name suggests, it does focus on corn liquor and whiskey, stuff like that. This book also does go over history of corn whiskey in America, which is really cool. I've read most of this book myself. It's really knowledgeable, really good one. Does have some recipes in the back as well. And it also tells you how to make your own still. It gives you basically a step-by-step on how to make your own still. So that's pretty awesome. So those are going to be our how-to books, how to distill, how to make schnapps, how to make brandy, how to make corn whiskey, how to just make whatever you want. All right, moving along, we've got our recipe books. As it suggests, these are just recipes for stuff. Cordial Waters, really great if you're into macerating and just like, infusing, putting fruits and stuff into your already finished spirit, letting it sit and infuse for a while. If that's what you're into, you're into making that apple pie, that peach cobbler, whatever you got going on, this is a good book to have. There's so many recipes in there. It does go over base spirits a little bit, but mostly it's having a base spirit already and then putting ingredients in and creating something whole new. I've flipped through this one myself. There are spirits in here that I can't even pronounce the names of. So something for everybody in this book, I almost guarantee it. Next up, we have The Craft of Gin. This is a really cool book if you're into gin. Gin is something that's becoming more and more popular, honestly, throughout the country. I don't know about the world, but I know here in America, it's definitely becoming more and more popular. People are starting to figure out that it doesn't need to all taste like the woods, Different gins can have different flavors, and you can really play around with the flavor of gin, which is so much fun. This book is really great. Like I said, it goes over different gin distilleries in the UK and the US, tells you, who they are, the botanicals they use in their gin and stuff like that. So you can find your favorite gin and maybe even try to make it yourself at home, which is so cool. There's also recipes in here as well for, making a gin or infusing a gin, It also includes a few interviews with some American and English gin distillers, which is great. Some Q&As in there. It really is awesome. And the drawings in here are really cool. They're all hand-drawn. Really nice. And last but not least, we have our guides, is what I'm going to call them. Sort of a mixture of different guides. So let's just get into it. This first one, if you're a whiskey lover or know a whiskey lover, this would make a great gift. Pretty much all these books would make great gifts, but this is one of those ones that would be really cool if you know someone who loves travel and loves whiskey, because it basically goes over every country in the world. Not in the world, I should say, but a lot of different countries throughout the world. And we'll just list and show pictures of different whiskey distilleries throughout the world, as the name clearly implies. A lot of really cool pictures in here. I was flipping through this one for a minute, and I was just like, oh my gosh, there's just so many. And look how big the pages are. I mean, it's crazy. Really cool. So that's that. Let's move on. We've got 99 pot stills. This is just a picture book. There are no words in this book. Doesn't say anything. As the name suggests, it's pot stills. Somebody basically went around with a camera across the United States and took pictures of different distilleries' pot stills. That's it. That's the book. So if you know someone who's maybe a little into photography and likes the look of the old school pot still, this would be a cool one to have as well. Like I said, as you can see, it's just pictures, pictures, more pictures, all pictures. All right. Next we have Spirits and Liquors. This is a really cool book if you just like to know about different types of spirits. It's kind of insane how many there are throughout the world, and this one goes over not all of them, but a lot of them. It'll give you just basic knowledge on that spirit, provide like a brief history and flavor profiles and stuff like that, how it's made sort of. Doesn't give you an exact mash recipe or anything like that, but it gives you just a general information on all of them. A lot of really good pictures in here too. I really did like flipping through this one as well. Pretty enjoyable. All right, now we have Scotland, a whiskey lover's guide. This book is really cool. If you are planning to go to Scotland and you like whiskey, you like scotch, then pick this book up for real, because it's gonna make your trip a blast. I don't know if every Scotch distillery is in this book, but oh my god, there is a lot of them. has really good pictures as well. Does little what they call tours in there as well. Gives you just a brief description of the distillery, how it runs and stuff like that. So you probably still want to do a tour yourself, but you know, this is the next best thing. All right, and last but not least, we have Appreciating Whiskey. This is a tasting guide. If you are someone who really wants to get into more of the tasting aspect, you know, you like watching the YouTubes and the TikToks of people tasting whiskey and jotting down notes, you know, you want to be like that someday, then this is the book you want to pick up. Goes over everything you need for tasting, flavor profiles, you know, how to get the whiskey on your tongue the right way, you know, different areas in which you'll taste different flavor profiles on your tongue, you know, all that kind of crazy stuff. So if you want to basically be a sommelier but for whiskey, hey, there you go. And that's it. That's all the books we have. We try to keep it, you know, just smaller, but we try to keep all the books that we have just good books. We try to keep the good stuff. And I have a couple honorable mentions as well. These are not books that we sell, but they're books that I think are really, really good. And so I think they deserve a mention. The first one is The Complete Distiller. And that's Compleat. This is a really great book. When I first started getting into distilling and working here, I took this book home with me and read basically the whole thing. And it's crazy good. The downfall of this book is that it's not really being published anymore. This is my personal copy, honestly, but you can sort of find it online if you look hard enough, but you do have to do some searching. It still can be found, though. And now we have Moonshine. This is just a really cool book. I do like the illustrations in here a lot. They're pretty fun. It's, you know, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does give a really good just overview on distillation and, you know, moonshine. History of moonshine, how to make it. A lot of recipes in the back of this one as well that are pretty easy to make. So this one I do suggest as well. This one is still being published. You can find it on Amazon and shit like that all over the place. So that sums it up. Those are our books. You know, check them out if you want. Maybe get one for a friend or a dad or a father-in-law, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Do whatever you want with them. But I highly suggest pretty much all of these books, honestly. And that's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.